Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But the week begins. It's a Monday and it's the 10th of June 2024. And these are the stories that we will be highlighting in the course of the show. We'll begin with terrorism and Pakistan's response. We've seen recently there have been two incidents. The first that has happened in lakkimarwat, in which 7 security officials, including an army captain, were martyred after an IED targeted their vehicle. At the same time, there has also been another incident in other areas as well. And this said, the number of incidents have been increasing over the last couple of months. In fact, even the last couple of years since 2021. How can Pakistan move forward in order to curb this menace? Our armed forces, our defense forces are on the very first line. That is why most of those who are martyred are either in such operations against these elements or are the ultimate targets of such militants or terrorists. What needs to be done and how should this be done about? We'll be discussing that in detail in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Narendra Modi, the elections, his third win, and the false flag operations. Now, Narendra Modi has managed to, along with other allies, form the next government. He was recently he became officially the Prime Minister of India with 272 seats that were needed for majority, but of course the BJP getting only 240 seats, which is totally opposed to what he had said before the elections, or claimed that they will be getting 400 or 400 plus seats. At the same time, there are certain events that are unrolling as soon as he has taken oath of Prime Minister. One of those has happened in occupied Kashmir, where 10 pilgrims have been killed, 33 injured in a bus that were carrying Hindu pilgrims in the Riyasi district. We've seen in the past how Narendra Modi has never shied away from using the Pakistan card and of course targeting Pakistan whenever anything happens in his own country. And of course all these false flag operations that have happened in the past in India as well. We all remember Pulwama, we all remember the other incidents as well. Will this new government and the fact that Modi is not in ultimate majority, his BJP isn't, prove to be detrimental or not as far as his stance toward Pakistan is concerned? This is going to be our second story. Then we are going to discuss Ukraine's largest Lenin statue that has gone up for sale to raise money for the military. There have been many Lenin statues in Ukraine, but this is the biggest one. This is being put on sale by the deputies of one of the city councils of Ukraine. The bronze sculpture's proceeds are going to be donated to the Ukraine Armed Forces. Then we'll be talking about the graduation ceremony, ladies and gentlemen, that has happened in the United States of America after a period of 5 decades, 50 years. Yes, you read it right and heard it right. 50 years after a tornado warning led to the cancellation of a high school graduation for students in Moore in Oklahoma in the US, the class of 1974 has finally walked across stage to receive their diplomas. Well, better late than never. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns terrorism and Pakistan's resolve to thwart all such attempts and all those who have been abetting or facilitating such militants or such terrorists. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan Sahab is a defense analyst, joins us online. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. And our second guest is Dr. Syed Akhtar Shah Sahab, former Home Secretary and Inspector General of Police. Sir, pleasure to have you on board as well for this very important segment. Let's begin with you, Raza Muhammad Khan Sahab. Sir, we all know the latest incident that happened in Lakkimarwat, in which 7 of our security personnel embraced shahadats, including an army captain. And there was also another incident that happened in Bajor. There was a pre-dawn ambush at one of the police checkposts that was of course repulsed, but that did not result in casualties. This one did. Why, in your point of view, this uptick in such incidents that has been increasingly frequent in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan is going on since the last couple of years?
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
All right. So I think I'll put it in another way, and I would like to rationalize why terrorism has not ended despite the National Action Plan and limited provincial action plans through the counter-terrorism department of the police. And the reason behind that is that the National Action Plan, which was approved in December of 2014, was essentially against or for the domestic terrorists or extremists, and mainly, for the proscribed organizations and the persons. And it really did not cater as much as it should have for the foreign terrorists, international terrorists. Although some such terrorists were tried by special military courts, which were established as a consequence of the 21st Amendment, but even that ended after 2 years, and we are back to other measures. It was also said as part of the National Action Plan that there have to be, a special raising or counter-terrorism forces, and it was actually meant that the provinces will raise those counter-terrorism forces. I think not much has happened. There are these department, provincial counter-terrorism department, but I think they are not, their capacity lacks, the desired sort of an impetus. And one of the provinces has actually announced its budget, and at least I haven't read, I'm talking of the KP, how much money has been allocated, additional money to the provincial CTD departments. We hope that, in the budgets that are going to follow, additional amounts will be given to them, and also in the province of Balochistan. When we come, to the level of the federal government, I think there also the merged districts of KP were promised that about 1% of the NFC award, and some money was also given to them many years back. But I think that was utilized on other developmental activities and not on counter-terrorism efforts. So I think if there is any money left with the federation, that must be allotted to the frontline states of KP and Balochistan. And of course, this is a political decision, and I think all the provinces and the federations should make sure that in the coming budgets, additional allocations are made, particularly to the provinces, so that their capacity is enhanced. At the same time, I think the role of judiciary is important, and some sort of, the judicial system was to be upgraded or reappraised in a manner that terrorists could be, punished in a way that deterrence is created. I think that is yet to be done. And also, let me add to this that this terrorism is now not only Pakistan's sort of responsibility. It is now a regional issue. We know that terrorists are hurting the economic interest of China as well. Now there are also, economic stakes of governments. I am talking specifically of the UAE. I'm talking of Saudi Arabia. I'm talking of Qatar and others. And therefore, I think all these countries should take joint actions to ensure that at least externally supported terrorists from Afghanistan, India, or elsewhere, they are not allowed, to hurt our economic interest. In addition to the other measures that we are taking, and that is effective surveillance of the Pak-Afghan border and completion of the Pak-Iran border as soon as possible.
All right. Let's revert to Dr. Syed Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab, sir. I want to also talk about what happened in Bajor, where an attack, an overnight attack rather, was repulsed by the police. There, this happened in Miagano area of Khar Tehsil, where the militant attacks, they attacked with multiple weapons. They used rocket launchers and other weapons, to target this post. Also, on the 8th of June, the two policemen were injured as well when an IED targeting a police vehicle had gone off. That happened on Tank Road as well in the Hatala area. Now, what I want to ask you specifically is not about these incidents, but about the facilitators of such militants and terrorists. Who are the sources who fund for all these weapons and the highly sophisticated usage of such weapons that we usually see among such terrorists and militants in Balochistan and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? Who are the financiers?
As far as you have mentioned specifically the Bajor incident, but while analyzing this kind of terrorism, we have to keep in mind that these are not isolated events. All these events, whether committed at the Lakkimarwat, North Waziristan, or anywhere in Pakistan, I would say, it is or orchestrated by a well-defined organization who have their worldview and a transnational agenda. They are not confined to one specific area. As far as their raising of funds is concerned, it's a continuation ever since the 9/11. At the back at that time, Al-Qaeda was there. They had the strategic directions. Then as they had all the weaponries with them, at that time they would send threatening calls, and then they would extort money from the well-off people. So this is one way of raising the money, kidnapping for ransom, and of course there may be certain powers who are fishing in the troubled waters. So it cannot also be ruled out. But having studied their pattern for the past so many years, there are certain volunteers who have the ideological commitments. They also contribute, but at the same time, for instance, if we take Tehreek-e-Taliban Maman, they target their own influential people who are well off. They also contribute. So this is one way of raising the funds.
All right. I understand the raising the funds issue, sir, but who supplies them with the weapons? I mean, is there a specific country, is there a specific organization, or is it a conglomerate of many organizations or countries?
You see, they have a very elaborated, well-organized organizations which has been divided into different branches. One is regarding their procurements. So they are also functioning like any other Malaysia in the world, whether it is the Philippines, whether it's Sudan, whether it's Iraq or Syria. So they know how to procure arms. If the criminals in Kacha areas can have all kinds of weapons, so they also have access to the same markets.
All right. Thank you very much. Do stay online because the conversation continues. Okay. General Raza Khan Saab, we are recently talking of Captain Muhammad Faraz Ilyas, who was martyred in the IED attack, but there are other soldiers also who were martyred. And if we go back, even a little back, there is a whole list of, personnel from the police, from the armed forces who have laid down their lives for the defense of the motherland. What measures need to be taken to ensure that their sacrifices do not go in vain?
Well, I think, first of all, the law enforcing agencies and the armed forces of Pakistan are taking every possible measure to ensure that these incidents do not happen again. We are also aware that the number of terrorists killed is, I think, twice or thrice as much as the people who have suffered because of them. That I think is not getting as much sort of a publicity as naturally, the publicity that is being given to the loss of life of our forces. But having said that, I think it was only 2 weeks back that the government of Pakistan, in fact, the Interior Minister, very clearly asked the government of Afghanistan to hand over the masterminds and plotters of the Bisham attacks on the Chinese engineer. And later on, the Chinese endorsed this demand. And I think when the Prime Minister was there, the Chinese once again reassured the government of Pakistan that they would support Pakistan in all such efforts which relate to ending terrorism inside Pakistan, and particularly the terrorism against the combined interest of Pakistan and China. So one will have to wait and see. Although the government of Afghanistan did on another occasion, which happened a week later on, promised to look into the dossiers provided by the government. But so far, I think we haven't heard anything about the actions taken by them. I think both Pakistan and China need to remind them to expedite the action on handing over the perpetrators of those and other terrorist attacks to Pakistan, or to apprehend them and share the apprehensions with Pakistan and to punish them themselves. I think the earlier that they do that, the better it would be. Otherwise, I think both China and Pakistan must very clearly communicate to them the disincentives that could be there for the government of Afghanistan. They're aware what kind of incentives Pakistan is giving to them in terms of trades and other things and support, diplomatic support. And we are aware the Chinese investment inside Afghanistan as well. I think that needs to be very clearly pointed out to them so that the government of Afghanistan can take action on that. Similarly, I think Indian-sponsored terrorists in Afghanistan and elsewhere, I think there needs to be sent very clear messages by Pakistan, China, and other friends of Pakistan who have economic stakes in Pakistan, that we are not going to tolerate Indian efforts, to foment terrorist activities in Pakistan. And if they do so, Pakistan will have all options available to defend itself, which will include, cross-border sort of actions against the hideouts of terrorists, whether they are in Afghanistan or elsewhere.
Because such options we've already utilized once, if you remember, where if you go a little bit past in our history, we have shown that we have the capability of responding back if such incidents continue. So we have, as you yourself said, Raza Saab, all the options in front of us. Coming back to you, Syed Akhtar Ali Shah Saab, recent report talking about the incidents, the terror incidents in the first quarter of 2024 says that Pakistan has witnessed 432 violence-linked fatalities and 370 injuries among civilian security personnel and outlaws and the majority of that has been in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan, which have borne the brunt of 92% of these cases. Why, in your point of view, are these areas being targeted? Because of their proximity to Afghanistan, because of their proximity to other border areas? What is the basic philosophy or methodology behind it?
I would like to further explain your first question. The Taliban fighters, they had been fighting shoulder to shoulder with Afghan Taliban against one of the most advanced armies, the American and the NATO in Afghanistan. So it's obvious that while fighting, they had with them the most sophisticated weapons at that time. And when the NATO forces withdrew from there, all the equipments and weapons also fell into the hands of Afghan Taliban as well as Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. So, with these sophisticated weapons, you asked that, it is also one of the factors where they had been able to get such kind of weapons which they are now using against Pakistan. Now coming to your specific question, why there is a surge. If you analyze the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, so their leadership most of the time, rather all the time, had remained with mostly with the tribal of Masood tribe. Again now, the leader is Nur Wali Masood. And all the fragmented groups of the Taliban, they also took oath, they also accepted him as an Amir. So this is one of the major reasons that this kind of insurgency is in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Whether it was Maulana Fazlullah, now he has been killed in drone attacks, but his group is there, Qari Abdul Wali of Maman tribe from Bajawar, because we have close proximity with Afghanistan. It was very easy to cross over there and to find sanctuaries in Kunar, in other Badakhshan, Paktia, in those areas. And before that, the Afghan Taliban used to be here. So it's very easy to cross over to this side or that side. So this is one of the major reasons. The composition as far as the Tehrik-e-Taliban is concerned is mostly from this area. It is why.
All right, I understand. Thank you so very much, Dr. Syed Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab, former Home Secretary and Inspector General of Police. And at the same time, thank you so very much, Dr. General Raza Muhammad Khan Sahab, Defense Analyst, to have joined us to talk to us about terrorism, something that Pakistan is facing since 2021, even before that, but since 2021, since the Afghan Taliban, the interim government has come into effect, we are seeing a great increase in such activities, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. Thank you very much to the both of you to have joined us. Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns Narendra Modi, his third win as Prime Minister. He recently took oath, and of course, the one of the false flag operations that has recently happened again in Kashmir, and what is going to happen as an after effect of incidents such as these. We have seen in the past, whether it be Pulwama, whether it be other incidents, that the Pakistan card has been very frequently and vehemently used by India, despite the fact that Pakistan has no such intervention that ever happened that led to such incidents. That was an inside job, and that is instead of India, instead of kind of putting the blame to the right persons, uses Pakistan as a very effective card in order to increase its political acumen and gain within the Hindu extremists and the BJP mindset. To discuss that and much, much more, now that Narendra Modi has earned his third stint as Prime Minister, we've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studio, we've been joined by Anum A. Khan, she's a foreign affairs expert. Anum, thank you very much to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Dr. Asma Shakir Khuwaja, Executive Director, CISS, Azad Jammu and Kashmir. Dr. Sahaba, pleasure to have you on board as well. We'll begin with you, Anum, and I'd like to understand. Narendra Modi is sworn in on Sunday for a third consecutive time. His office is going to appoint a 71-member cabinet, including 11 National Democratic Alliance ally ministers. His previous cabinet had 81 members as well. And they had said before the elections that they are going to get 400 plus seats, but they could not manage to muster it. They had to resort to forming alliances with other parties. Now that Modi and the exit poll predictions that had favored Modi have come to be untrue, how will Modi be able to rule this time? What will his strategy be?
Thank you very much for calling me today. The Modi's strategy or Modi's agenda, which was there even during during the elections, was very the rhetoric was very rogue, and it was not just rogue for Pakistan. It was also rogue for other opposition parties and other people who were involved in the government in the elections as well. So this time, now that Modi's agenda has been rejected by the people of India, he would have to opt for a very delicate a very delicate path. It is so because any decision now that Modi has to take has to have proper incentive to be provided to the coalition government, and other parties, people from other parties need to be present there as well, and they have to give their views. And unless those people are involved and they move forward with Modi's decisions, Modi cannot take anything on his own. So I think it will be very difficult for Modi to go about foreign policy objectives as well as domestic politics as far as they are concerned. It will be very difficult for Modi to get back to the image which he had already distorted because of his political rhetoric as well as actions in the previous terms as well.
All right, so all the election hoo-ha that we heard and saw will not be implemented in letter and principle just because he is no longer as strong in power as he was maybe in the previous government. Dr. Asma, Shakir, Khuwaja Sahiba. Now, Narendra Modi, when he was flanked by his top BJP officials, party leaders of his coalition, in a ceremony that marked his formal assumption of power, said that he will bear true allegiance to the Constitution of India, quote unquote. This is a very important statement. With the reference to this, I'd like to understand, will his coalition shift the parliamentary politics that BJP has been involved in and force Modi's once domineering party into a somewhat more conciliatory approach?
This is a very interesting question, because again we are trying to find rationality in the irrationality of radicalism. These election results in India have highlighted two things. We are focusing on one thing, that the coalition government under Prime Minister Modi would be a weak government, and Modi needs to create an inclusive decision-making process in which he has to take into account the opinion, the policies of his allies as well. The second aspect of these election result is that opposition would be more empowered in Indian Parliament, and they will not be as I would say nominal as they were during the previous after the previous elections of 2019. So, but again, these results and this third term in power is a chance, or maybe the last chance for Mr. Modi to regain public's attention, public support, and to regain these indicators of downfall of BJP ideology in popular vote bank in India. So this is a tightrope for Modi, definitely, because if he would be because when we see the trends of decision making processes in India during the last two terms of Mr. Modi, they were based on dictatorship. They were based on Modi's exclusive decision making with his with people of his choice. Just for example, Mr. Ajit Doval, Amit Shah. So they were actually deciding, a close kitchen cabinet was actually deciding what India should do and how India should be presented on international and national forums. So right now this situation is very tricky for Mr. Modi, because if he would go for a policy of reconciliation, then he may lose the radical Hindu vote bank and all that Hindutva ideology being promoted, encouraged, supported, facilitated by BJP during last two terms. So, therefore, I think that knowing the trends of decision making of Mr. Modi, I believe that Mr. Modi would go for more aggressive policies because he wants Indian public to believe that Modi is or BJP is the only are the only savior which can build India and which can make India a coercive power. And that is why when you see the initial statements of BJP or Mr. Modi after the results of the third term, they exclusively, Mr. Modi talked about that he would continue the military modernization process. And this looks or this sounds funny because when the economic downfall of India, I would say economic challenges faced by common Indian man were unable to bring any those challenges caused heavily to BJP. BJP was unable to regain its seats. BJP has shrunk to 240 seats, unlike their claim of having 400 seats. So if Modi would not focus on economic revival of India, on the economic problems of common Indian, because his policies created a perception among people that Modi is there in government to safeguard the interests of financial tycoons, businessmen, traders, and elites. So his policies were not or are not in favor of common men, and that is what bring a major and massive change. And then, of course, Modi's policies against minorities.
Dr. Sabha, this is a very important point that you talk about, the message to change. And I'd take that and revert to my guest in the studios, Anum. There are very important calls that are being made by his coalition partners, his allies. Will Narendra Modi take these calls from his allies to A, dismiss the BJP chief minister in Manipur, under whose watch the state has been torn and has witnessed the crimes that it has? Secondly, will he also respond to calls to probe into the allegations of financial crimes in defense deals and, of course, the electoral bonds saga as well?
It is actually a very important topic to discuss, because you see, if India starts, if the Modi government starts probing into these small allegations and starts a probe, it would then have a domino effect, and then the next step would be probing all the defense corruption deals that have taken place. And the issue is not only about normal deals like Rafale jet deals and all that, but the issue is also about the whole Made in India initiative, because there have been many deals nationally as well as internationally in which Modi was being told that he's part of a larger group of corruption that is taking place. So I think he would not opt for it. He would opt for a middle ground and would try to make other parties understand that this is not something that Modi can opt for.
All right, let's see, because these are important questions that are being leveled at him. What about the Pakistan card that has been very regularly used by Narendra Modi in his stint as in power? Will he continue to use this, this card? Because we see that in occupied Kashmir there were 10 pilgrims that were killed, 33 injured in firing on a bus carrying Hindu pilgrims in Riyasi district, which is again a lot of very fishy, Hindu pilgrims in Riyasi district, they are fired upon. Reminds me a little bit of Pulwama and other incidents that happened before. And then of course the blame first of all will go directly to Pakistan, or they will say, oh, Pakistan is backing XYZ who has been behind this all. Will this approach end somehow, or is it a new chapter that Narendra Modi will be opening once he starts his new stint, which he has of course since Sunday?
After Pulwama and Balakot, what Narendra Modi's government tried to do was to make it a new normal, to blame everything on Pakistan. So this time as well, we can see, and at your show, there were many analysts who had already predicted that during or after electoral process, whenever there would be a fragile domestic situation in India, Narendra Modi would want to divert attention towards Pakistan and opt for a false flag operation. So my prediction would be these operations are going to happen again, and with that, to divert the weaknesses that Modi has in this coalition government, Modi would start opting for an enemy from outside or enemy from within, the so-called infiltrators that are in Jammu and Kashmir. But the thing is, Pakistan, the way you already mentioned in the previous segment, Pakistan has had no intentions to create unrest in India or even in Kashmir. Pakistan has always wanted to have peace and stability and dialogue. We can also even see that Pakistani Chief Minister, Pakistani Prime Minister has congratulated Modi, and we want a dialogue with India. But the idea is that
But when you come to dialogue with India, it has happened many a times that Pakistani side has, allayed that the request to come on the table for talks, including the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. But the fact is that India has never accepted that demand from Pakistan.
Even if we view the response to even Mr. Nawaz Sharif by Modi was about what he wants to do to secure his people. Our question was about people of South Asia as a whole, but he has wanted to talk about just Indians and their security. Modi is not interested in the South Asian security matrix. Rather, he wants to project nationally as well as internationally that we have an aggressor, that is so-called aggressor, that is Pakistan, and we need to respond to it even massively. But that should not be the case, because Pakistan, you already said, has never wanted to do it.
Of course, and that is the truth. Coming back to you, Dr. Asma Shakir Khuwaja, around 14.2% of India's total population is Muslim, more than 200 million, in fact, if you count them, but not a single Muslim minister included in Narendra Modi's government. There are 30 federal ministers, 41 state ministers, no single Muslim. Also, no Muslim parliamentary member has taken oath after the elections. What are you predicting as far as the Muslims of India is concerned?
Not only Muslims, but the minorities like Sikhs and Christians, all are sidelined by BJP. You were talking about ministers, but I was reading somewhere that on BJP's ticket, or BJP didn't even, there is no one single parliamentarian who is Muslim, Sikh or Christian on BJP's ticket or seats. So Modi's policy of sidelining minorities is exactly there. And they definitely minorities, whether they were Sikhs or Muslims or Christians, they expressed their anger against Modi regime through the power of vote, and that is why we have seen that whether it was Manipur or it was Kashmir or Punjab, so the vocal opponents of the ideology of BJP, they won elections with with a huge number of margin and massive, they were massive with a massive victory for them, whether it was Sikh separatist leader or it was engineer Rashid in occupied Kashmir. So all those minorities, yes, they are not in the on BJP's ticket, they are not in the parliament, they are not among the list of ministers, but they feel empowered after the result of those elections, because Modi BJP under as the president of BJP, as the representative of BJP, Modi tried to create this image that minorities are not relevant, they are irrelevant to the democratic electoral process, because and there is no need, and Congress policy is wrong to make them empowered or make them feel inclusive or stakeholder in larger system of Indian Federation. And BJP tried to create an antidote to that ideology, but we have seen that all those elements, they bounce back as the election results. Yes, there is no, but you can see that there are number of Muslim parliamentarians right now elected in Indian Parliament, Lok Sabha, who are very vocal people, very articulated and well spoken. So they are going to give, I'm sure they are going to give tough time to the NDA alliance, and they would be really vigilant on BJP's acts and policies, because this is why they got votes. This is why they are in the parliament, or sent by people to the parliament. And here it is really important to mention that how all Modi's cow vigilantes, minority mob lynching of minorities, and massive killings, all these were unsuccessful when it comes to people's realization that they are certain the communities, because of their either ethnicity or their religion, they have been marginalized in BJP regime. And that is why them and people having feelings or sympathy for them, they voted out BJP candidates in their respective constituencies. So if Modi would act like a rational statesman, he should focus on economic revival and of India. He should focus on shrinking or reducing the gap between the primary class, the middle class, the lower middle class, and the elite class. Because yes, when it comes to statistics, figures are interesting of India's economic
Dr. Asma,
development.
but you know, the
we
fact is,
see
at the end of the day, Dr. Asma, figures are interesting. I agree with you what you were saying, but the fact is that when it comes to Narendra Modi and his previous 10 years of power as Prime Minister, or his 1 decade, we haven't seen any such rationality, have we? And I don't think we should expect any rationality unless there is a huge political upheaval or change within India, and a lot of pressure that is put on Narendra Modi. That is the only way that his tactics will change. Otherwise, I don't see him changing his perception of Muslims, his perception of minorities, and his perception of Akhand Bharat. Thank you very much, Dr. Asma Shakir Khaja Sahiba, to have joined us for this very important segment. We'll continue to be in touch in future shows as well. Coming to you, Anum, this Modi's technique to establish hegemony in the region. I was just talking to Dr. Asma about the Akhand Bharat, on how he wants to, extend his and his kitchen cabinet's, comments on Azad Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, his derogatory comments during the election campaigns on Pakistan, wearing bangles. I mean, this is just one of the examples, and then the false flag operations and the atrocities on the people in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and then also other countries that have been affected during Narendra Modi's stint in power as well. What could be the aftermath of this hegemonic design, this decade of hegemonic designs in this new government? And will, if he continues to do what he has been doing in the last decade, will it affect the region even more profoundly? And I'm not just talking of Pakistan.
We see that during his previous tenures, the neighbors of India, not just Pakistan but other smaller neighbors as well, have had conflicts with India. Why was that so? Because India and Modi himself was opting for a very hegemonic design regionally. What India wants to do is, India wants to become a regional policeman. India wants to be a right hand of the major powers, especially the US. But all in all, what has happened is the equation between India and Pakistan has become very fragile, especially the deterrence equation, because of Indian hegemonic designs. And unfortunately, there are some analysts who do view and who are idealistic in nature, and who do view that maybe in the third term he may opt for some mellowed down stance towards Pakistan and may talk about peace and stability, as this may be his last term. But I do not see the case, because we saw that in his election manifesto as well, during his election campaigns, he kept on blaming Pakistan and kept on giving the signals of being an aggressive neighbor.
So let's see. I think Anum, only time will tell on whether his policies have changed, or they will become more aggressive, or will they remain the same. We'll wait and see. That's all we can do. Anum, thank you very much to have joined us. That was Anum A. Khan, Foreign Affairs expert, joining us on India, the new government in India, and of course the hegemonic designs that Narendra Modi has had. Will he have or continue to have these designs is the huge question that a lot of people are asking right now. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns Ukraine, where there are a lot of Lenin statues, but the largest Lenin statue in Ukraine is about to go to sale, and this is being put up by the deputies of one of the city councils of Ukraine. The bronze sculpture of Vladimir Lenin when it gets sold, the proceeds will of course be going to the Ukrainian armed forces, and of course it will be used in the conflict that has been going on against Russia. Finally, a graduation ceremony has occurred in the United States of America after a period of 5 decades, 50 years. In 1974, the graduation ceremony in Moore in Oklahoma in a high school were cancelled after a tornado hit of course the school and the area as well. But unfortunately, that convocation ceremony never got to happen afterwards. But 5 decades later or 50 years later, the same class got together and finally had their graduation ceremony. A lot of people were elated. Those who had become grandfathers and grandmothers were saying that, my grandchildren will finally be able to see my graduation on this very day. It's interesting, and at the same time it has a very how should I say, sad tone to it as well, that people sometimes have to wait decades in order to get recognition, official recognition, as far as their graduation is concerned. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories and segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.